Hey, welcome back to Better Through Tech. In this quick episode, I'm going to show you the power supply that I use to power my projects. Well, at least on the desktop anyways. This is an ATX power supply from a computer that I have converted. I'm not done converting it yet, but I will fully convert it over to a desktop power supply that will provide 3.3, 5 volts, and 12 volts for any of my projects. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the video, and I'll show you how I use it. I'll show you what the wires are for, what voltages are on what wires, and we'll proceed from there. Okay, so what I got here is the pinout for the ATX power supply. This shows the example of the 24 pin and the 10 pin. It does show the PCI connectors as well as auxiliary, but we're not going to worry about any of those because the power code is the same through all the pins. But what you'll be looking at, the main example that we'll be observing here will be the 12-24 setup, which is exactly identical to the 1020, just with 4 extra pins. If you've assembled any ATX motherboards, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, because these last 4 pins are just kind of a clip-on to the 20 pin output, which converts it over into a 24. But so when you're getting ready to convert this into a desktop power supply, you'll want to remember what these colors are, because this is how you're going to want to color code everything. Obviously, all of the common or ground, or all the black ones, it's okay if you tie all the ones together. I'll show you in my power supply I'm already working on. Orange is 3.3 volts, which is great for microcontroller use. 5 volt and 12 volts, all great for microcontroller. 12 volt, obviously, you want to be careful with some microcontrollers. You don't want to connect them directly to it, but you can use the power to power some bigger projects that are connected to your microcontrollers. But the 5 volt and the 3.3 volt, with some, depending on what type of microcontroller you are using, that will be perfect and ideal for the power to power it, right? So, going down this, you can see that you got 3.3, which is the orange pins. You have a negative 12. There's probably a really huge chance that you're probably not ever going to be using that. On my power supply, I'll show you here in a second, I just unsoldered that wire and pulled it out of the box. Oh, and a big disclaimer, be extremely careful taking these things apart if you ever do this. If you ever do need to get into the box, the components in here are extremely dangerous. If you've powered up the box recently, this is something you will definitely want to have sit for a while, because you don't want any of the capacitors charged or anything like that, because if it zaps you, it's going to give you an extremely nasty bite. But yeah, wait for a while, wait for everything to discharge. Don't want to have any energy stored in there. So please, for the love of God, if you do this, wait, because I don't want to have that all on my conscience if you end up hurting yourself doing this. But if you feel comfortable taking this apart, you can get in there and mess with the wires. If not, just get some wire nuts and just cap them off. I mean, that works as well too, because if you're going to be putting this into a case, no one's ever going to see it. Who cares, right? But the odds are is you're probably not ever going to be using the blue wire. For this example, in this case, this power supply right here, you can see there's this blue wire right here. That's going to be the negative 12. Like I said, probably not ever going to use that in any of your projects, unless you're maybe using it to build an amp. If you're going to be using it to power some speakers, maybe you might need that negative rail. Otherwise, you're probably not ever going to need it. But then you got your reds in here. You can see there's a bunch of reds in here. Those are all 5 volt. You have your oranges, which is 3.3, and then you got a bunch of yellows. You got some yellows in this loom. You got a couple of yellows over here. These are all 12 volt lines. Those will be what you'll be using to power some of the bigger motors, stepper motors, servos, anything like that connected to your microcontrollers. And then if you look inside here, you'll see some other colors, like this green. I know this is really faded green, but this is how you will actually turn on the power supply, is by using this green wire right here. You can use this green wire connected to any of the black wires, and I recommend using like a latching button, because a latch will click and hold on instead of a temporary where it only stays on as long as you hold it down. Use a latching switch, and you can use any of the black wires with this green wire and tie one leg onto one pin and tie one leg on the other pin, so that when you click it, it will actually turn on the power supply. And let's see what else we got. We got gray in here. The gray is power okay. This is only meant, I mean, you can use projects that could take advantage of this too, but this wire essentially only tells the motherboard that the power supply is good to go, that it's sending out proper power. Sorry, I can't talk. It is sending out proper power, and that it is okay for the motherboard to start initializing and start running everything, right? So that's just a signal out. It's more than okay to cut this off or cap it off, whatever we like to do. And then the last color in here is going to be this purple one. This purple wire here is always going to have power. The moment you plug in your power supply to the outlet, this thing has got power. This is a status light. It's used also for the motherboard to maintain power. Kind of helps with the battery for the BIOS, right? The battery for the BIOS helps keep everything in its memory in check, so that way it remembers how to start up, right? This is essentially the same idea. It provides constant power for as long as the power supply is plugged in. This could have a number of benefits. This could be used as a signal line for connected to an LED to let you know that this thing has got power. You could run your Arduino on it. I think this is a 5-volt line. I think this is what this is. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. It's right there. It says 5 volts. Right there on the screen. You can plug your Arduino into this, or maybe if you're running a real-time clock on your Arduino, you can always have this plugged into it, a rail connected to that, so it always has power. So, with that being said, how do we do this? How do we turn this into a benchtop power supply? Well, it's really easy. And the way that I handled it was literally I just cut off all of these, all the pins, all the clips, all the brackets, right? So I'll get the slide out of the way real quick. And this is what it turned into. Obviously a different power supply, but this is essentially what it is. I'm still working on it, so it's a little rough, but it is still very useful. Like I said, I capped everything off with wire nuts, because you obviously don't want any of these things to touch. All the different voltages and the grounding and stuff. If any of those touch, could be really bad. But here's my latching. Here's the latching switch. One leg on one pin, one leg on the other, and it turns power on. And as long as that's held in, it'll stay running. It'll provide you with power. And I just lost my thought that I was trying to go with this. So as you can see, I got all the blacks. I got 2 different ground posts set up. So you have 2 different grounds. There's the gray, don't really need to use. There's the purple, which I plan on using, so I don't want to do anything with that. You'll notice that there is no blue wire in here. I opened up the case and I did remove the wire because I don't need it. Not for this project. This specific benchtop power supply, anyhow. But you got your 3.3, you got your 5, and then your 12 volts, and that's how you can power all your projects. I wouldn't really recommend this as a long-term power per se, but this definitely can be used for your research and development or testing purposes. These things will give you all the power you could ever want to do any kind of testing. My next step for this, since I know this is really crude, because I'll spin one of these wire nuts and I'll use an alligator clip to clip onto whatever power lead I need. But in a not so distant episode from now, we'll be using a laser CNC machine, and we're going to custom cut a case to actually put this in, and use banana plug wiring to set it up, so that way it's a little more of a polished unit, and I can actually set it up on my desktop and just hit this button. It'll turn on, and then I just plug into whatever lead I want to use, and off I go. So I hope this was a little helpful, little quick little episode on the matter. Not really a lot to go over, just kind of a how-to on how to use a computer power supply and to convert it over to a desktop power supply for your projects.